Yes, you can. Thank you, Martin. No, you're already on stage. I think everyone knows who Martin is, coordinator of Clever Cities. So do take a seat there. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alice Royal from the city of Munich, and I have my colleague, Daniela Rizzi from ICLE Europe here as well. And we would like to ask the coordinators of the sibling project some questions, because who of you actually knows what sibling projects are in the context of EU research programs? Raise your hands. Okay, not quite half, which is great, so we will shed light on that. Sibling projects are essentially projects which result from the same call. So the European Commission has a number of calls for projects on different themes throughout the year. And these particular 4 projects came out of the call of nature-based solutions for urban regeneration. So those of you who were around on Tuesday, was it? Was it Tuesday? Yes. Evening in the City Hall. Monday. I'm confused. So anyways, in the City Hall, it was about sort of really looking at sort of regenerating deprived neighborhoods, regenerating or improving the environmental surroundings of neighborhoods in cities together with the community. So there was this strong, and I think you've realized it, that there was a strong focus on co-creation, doing it together with and for the community. And each of the 4 projects, we will find out now in a minute, have very different approaches. And I think it's great to see the diversity of ideas, cities, implementations of nature-based solutions here, and I'm happy to welcome all of you on stage. So Axel Timpe, coordinator from the proGIreg project from RWTH Aachen, and also Ina Säubel from the ediCitnet project from the TU Berlin, from the Humboldt University Berlin. You have a couple of roles, Ina, so you can present yourself in a minute. And of course, Gonzalo Moniz, coordinator for URBiNAT and associate professor at the University of Coimbra. Take a seat, and I will sit next to you. Great, so welcome everyone. I'll start. Thank you for changing the panel. So here you have our faces again, and we already clarified what sibling projects are. If you can go to the next one. We have one, not that simple after 5 years, I guess, questions to ask you, and we have a couple of them just to share with everyone what your experiences are. And I would like to start with Axel, and maybe you can at the beginning just introduce yourself briefly as well, and tell us a bit more in a nutshell what your project is about, what's unique about your project, and we have some visuals to support you in that.
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, you already said my name is Axel Timpe. I'm a landscape architect by education and profession, and I do teaching and research now for 12 years at RWTH Aachen University, a technical university at the architecture and urban planning faculty. So we try to bring in a landscape perspective to future planners, city planners and architects. And this is also what we try to do in proGIreg. And if you ask what is unique about us, is maybe the set of nature-based solutions that when we did the proposal with the cities and with the local NGOs and enterprises collected, it's why we call the project productive nature-based solutions, because we have a focus in the 3 cities, which are our front-runner cities, Dortmund, Turin and Zagreb, which are really post-industrial cities of the 20th century, which had a productive focus, producing steel in Dortmund, producing cars in Turin with the Fiat factories, a meat industry, very large scale in Zagreb, and who lost this productive function to use nature in new solutions that at least have some productive or harvestable output. So we focus on, in our terms, nature-based solution. One, the multifunctional landfills, which also can produce energy in the future. we have a nature-based solution to the new soil where we use the resources that are there in the city, excavation material, compost, and some microorganisms, fungi, to create new soil that can be used for urban greening. We focus on urban agriculture, like I guess everyone has urban agriculture in their projects, but for us it's especially important on soil, but also soilless urban agriculture with aquaponics, which we can use on even polluted soils of post-industrial sites, which is also quite a challenge, even if the agriculture doesn't happen on the soil. But these are like the core NBS we look at, where we try to give these areas at least partly a new productive vocation, coming from industrial production, going to nature-based production. And then we, of course, have some more nature-based solutions for integrating these productive ones.
Thank you very much. So really it's sort of post-industrial setting, transforming the landscape, but also how it's used and finding innovative ways on that. You actually have quite a few posters, I think, outside. So whoever of you would like to also know more details about there, do take a look at the proGIreg posters, which you can also find in the hallway outside. Thank you, Axel, for those insights. Gonzalo, URBiNAT had a pretty different approach to it, didn't it? Like, what's your project about?
Yeah, just to present, I would like not to present myself, but to say that one thing that is also unique, I think, in our project is that we come from a social sciences research center, which means that we try to bring this social dimension to the NBS. And in fact, we have also a co-coordination. Isabel Ferreira is here with us, and she's a geographer. We have Natalie from law and Beatrice from sociology, and I'm an architect. So we co-coordinate the project, trying to bring this interdisciplinary perspective to the nature-based solutions, inclusive urban regeneration. And in URBiNAT, yes, we are framed by the same call, so we have the same targets, but what I would like to highlight here is these three diagrams that we present to our cities. So we have also 7 cities that we are working with. Porto, Nantes, and Sofia are our front-runner cities. And we have an 8th city that is Ahmedabad from Iran, that was an observer, and during the process they become a follower, which is very interesting. This the commitment of the observers with the projects and how they can play other roles. And we propose these diagrams to frame the discussion and the approach with our cities. It's always a challenge to organize these projects with several cities. So it's very important that we have these schemes that allow us to communicate between us and have a starting of the project that we try to be on the same page. Although, of course, we have to be flexible and adaptable to each context of each city, of each community. So we try to bring this idea that the Living Lab should be activated by the several actors that are in the community, by the municipality for sure, that are with us, leading the task forces, the academia, but also local enterprises, NGOs, and the citizens, the local community. So when this group is formed, let's say, and it's a dynamic group, it's a group that grows during the process. Sometimes we have also some drop-off because it's very long and it creates some fatigue. But it's the moment that we really can activate these living labs, and we can go through the first moment, that is the co-diagnostic. So the important thing in this project is to have all this community from the first moment and not arriving during the process. So the co-diagnostic, the co-design, the co-implementation, and the co-monitoring, saying that we have to have all this community together, going through all these stages. And of course, this is a challenge. Perhaps the most clear for all of them is the diagnostic. It's more clear that to understand what we need. But then when we go through the other stages, it's becoming a challenge. And we proposed not to work with one specific NBS in each community, but exploring this idea of the healthy corridor. So going through expanding the concept of the green corridors and trying to bring health, let's say the social dimension, to the nature-based solutions, so that we can also have a more strong impact on the everyday life of the people. So this cluster of NBS, it's what also makes this project in some sense unique.
Thank you very much for that. So really health is one of the sort of guiding topics, but also this very strong co-design, from the colleague from London said and then you do lots of things with that, but the strong community ownership is one of your features as well. Thank you very much, Gonzalo, for that. Ina, your project has also a very specific, as the name already suggests, ediCitnet, has a very specific, topical entry point. What is that, the uniqueness, or what's unique about the project that you're coordinating?
Yeah, the ediCitnet project is about edible cities. And edible cities not means only community gardening, but a lot of other forms of food production in cities and in city regions, and of course also the distribution and the consumption of food in cities. And I was thinking about maybe the unique selling point of ediCitnet, and of course, as the name says, we tried to develop and expand networks, local, regional networks, and also in a certain type, a global network. You can see this on the slide. We have a lot of cities participating. We have also the framing of the frontrunners and follower cities, which we don't like. Because every city wants to lead and no one wants to follow. So we have cities that have implement living labs. These are 6 cities: Berlin, Oslo, Andernach, Havana. And we have 2 living labs in Berlin. We have 9 cities that developed master plans for becoming edible cities, for anchoring edible city solutions in their urban planning. And so this network creation is maybe a unique selling point. Actually, we learned a lot from the edible city initiatives that are existing worldwide since decades. And we learned from them that people drive transitions, and this is maybe a unique selling point. So our co-creation process was based on the communities of knowledge and practice in our cities. We formed city teams at each city, consisting of very diverse stakeholders, from administration to initiatives, to NGOs, to citizens, to people from really different backgrounds. And we started a collective learning process, developing what Gonzalo already mentioned: co-diagnostic, co-development, co-creation, co-monitoring, etc., all co. And what was really important for us also in this conversations on eye level is that we had, also we as researchers, I'm a researcher actually I'm a biologist and geographer by training, that we all are experts and not the scientists come and try to explain. And this was something that was really hard at the beginning of our project, that we are working with a community which is quite active and knowledgeable, and they don't want to be guided and steered by somebody. So this was really important to really create this community of knowledge and practice and co-create all our activities. Maybe this is
Thank you very much, Ina.
unique.
I think you as audience already recognize there are multiple cities involved, so it's really a network of cities learning from and with each other, and not just within Europe. I think all projects have sort of global connections to other cities as well. I would say on average there are within the project around 35 cities involved, and then more along the way. Martin, of course, we're at the Clever Cities Conference. We've heard a lot about clever cities, but if I
keep
put
myself
you on
very
the
short.
spot,
Yeah, very
What?
short. Because
defines clever
you have to know, Daniela and Alice planned 2 minutes per answer from each coordinator. I knew that it was too optimistic, so I will keep myself very short.
You could answer a second question that, and then what's the accomplishment, you think, the biggest accomplishment? So
Why don't you have to punish me now? I'm just starting with
Just making up for time.
clever, clever. Also, I start with the features of Clever. So you heard a lot of them about this. I mean, all of us have been working in co-creation setting, right? But I think Clever really, you will probably argue you did it as well, but we put it really in the center. I mean, you have seen the Community Design Council yesterday, and we experimented a lot with different formats of co-creation. And we also had like a strong research partner, Politecnico di Milano, that came into the project already with a co-creation guidance that was further and further developed throughout the project, right? And we really expanded on that. Our members, for example, I'm looking at Sean here from Groundwork, very active in the task force number 6 on co-creation. We will hear more about that later on. We had also innovation pathways as part of our focus. Tecnalia very much working on that. Part of the same session this afternoon will present one of the tools that have been developed there. And we were a really city-centric project, with Hamburg being the coordinator. And I think this is still something that is not too usual, right? I mean, and this is, I mean, I really like that, but it also, of course, created kind of tensions, right? I mean, because cities work in a different way than research organizations, and we had a lot of things that have to be clarified in terms of processes, timelines, and so on, in order to make that work. And sometimes it didn't work. But so I think these are some features that might be typical for Clever.
Thank you very much. And after 5 years, and I go over to Axel actually, because we have a slide illustrating what you would describe as your primary accomplishment of your project potentially. What, after 5 years, you would think that's really something we really managed to progress in, and it's a big accomplishment?
Well, I wouldn't frame it like, is it on? I'm not sure. I wouldn't frame this as the primary accomplishment. It's just 2 images from where I would say we were most successful with implementing NBS, and one is, Gonzalo already mentioned it, with the Healthy Corridor, where we managed to integrate different NBS into one structure. Like you see on the side, a corridor in Dortmund which gives access to the landfill, which is now used for energy production, and at the same time is a corridor for pollinators, where we cut the grass which was already there and installed more pollinator-friendly habitats and vegetation. And the second image shows it, and but it's also in the first one. We were successful where we were able to use existing communities or even to create new communities around NBS. And I think these are the success stories which really create ownership. So we were able to activate, for example, a church parish in Dortmund for creating a new community garden, and they will take it over and maintain it over time. Even a new association was created in Dortmund called Naturfelder, Natural Fields in the city, who will be given land from the city for creating pollinator-friendly environments, but they will do it on their own. And the same happens in Turin. You only see a small part of the Orti Generali, which is a huge area where you can find different ways of urban and community gardening, from educational gardens to therapeutic gardens to individual allotment gardens, and where there's really a new community of gardeners managed by a social enterprise which even created employment through this. So there's a new community created through these NBS, and this is, I think, the most successful and the most durable NBSs that we can create in a only few years project time, with a vision for the future.
Thank you. Indeed, 5 years seems a lot, but if you're in the middle of the project and have to and want to implement it, flies by to a certain extent. Also, so this community building is really quite an achievement. I see a lot of people and communities coming together in the URBiNAT pictures here as well. Gonzalo, your primary accomplishment, which you would like to highlight briefly.
Yeah, I would like to highlight this NBS catalog that is online. You can find it in our website, and it's a tool to select the most interesting NBS for your intervention area according to several criteria that you can select and identify, and through the mechanism will present you some inspirational ideas that could be useful to activate the discussions and the proposals for your areas. And we try to discuss this NBS approach, and in fact we develop 4 dimensions of NBS that are here represented, not, let's say, the common ones that we identified as the territorial, that we also developed, but these 3 that are the technological ones that were mostly developed by IAC, our colleagues from Barcelona, the Institute of Advanced Architecture, and that has these very nice structures that are for planting. This is the testing models in Nantes, and they are developed by the community according to accomplish not only the planting of trees, but also other uses, and this is, for instance, places to read. Then the social and solidarity market, social and solidarity economy solutions, the solidarity market in Porto that we present yesterday with our stakeholder Isabel Ruth, that is here with us. This idea of trying to activate the circular process of planting, selling and sharing in these markets, and then we have also a community kitchen that we cook together with the community, and these cultural and educational tools related with what we call participatory NBS. For instance, here we have this heritage route that goes along the territory, showing what is the values that the territory has, the material, so that we have a more close connection with our territory. So this is something that we worked a lot.
Thank you very much. So this place-making element together and also connected to the local identity, I think that's something that goes throughout many projects, but in URBiNAT that was really something you focused on very strongly. Ina, from your perspective.
Here you can see some images from the living labs. And I'm thinking I would like to highlight a virtual living lab that we have, which is in Rotterdam. And connected with this story is that we had first also the municipality of Rotterdam on board, and during COVID they wanted to skip out of the project because there was no capacity to continue this process. And then, luckily, the Commission accepted that the edible food initiatives, the urban food initiatives in Rotterdam, took over the lead of this living lab. And finally, this was really the best solutions that the initiatives that are creating these edible and nature-based solutions in the city are taking over the responsibility, great type of umbrella organization to self-research their needs, to look for barriers and solutions, and to come up with an organization type to discuss on eye level with the municipality. And this was like also an emancipating process. During the process, thanks to the difficult situation we had during all our projects, which challenged actually also these co-creation processes, led us to this online fatigue. But as you see on the photos there, the people met and organized and found a good solution. And this is something that we have in a certain way in all our living labs and also in our master planning cities, that we created and fostered the local communities and the local networks. And based on this, we have created also a type of catalog. We have a toolbox with solutions that are working well, where people can connect to other parts of the edible community worldwide, and where you can get also hints and tips for initiatives to be less fragile and more sustainable also economically. So we have also a strong business consultancy aspect, which is really helpful and where we learned a lot from the initiatives, but also the initiatives could learn a lot from our experts in this field.
Thank you, Ina, for that. Indeed, I think probably throughout all projects, I mean, the greatest accomplishment is also how to deal with COVID, because essentially 1.5 to nearly 2 years really had such a big impact on all projects, which were, the core of this project was co-creating and doing things together. And of course, it's just already a difficult challenge or a difficult task in normal circumstances, but even more than in the times of a pandemic. Martin, there were also so many different aspects, neighborhoods, spatial contexts, actors. What do you think was something that you really want to highlight as an accomplishment?
Again, very short, because I think we heard already quite a lot of what's happening in Clever and also concerning the Clever legacy. But again, on the one hand, I can repeat actually a lot of what was being said here on the stage during the last minutes, especially also what Ina said before, creating networks, supporting local communities, giving them the ability to go on and to also creating skills. For example, in Hamburg, we had like a partner that was supporting us in creating flower meadows, like a local nature protection foundation, and they now, well, they got the skill to go on with that, to apply for new co-funding, so to say. They have developed like a kind of a business plan for having like a permanent input there, and this is something that I would say is one of the most important legacy of Clever. You see here, of course, the Community Design Council. I mean, we talked about them yesterday here on stage, very impressive. So creating structures like this is definitely, I think, the most important legacy. But I also wanted to highlight something else, perhaps a little bit more technical, because, for example, in our front-runner partner city of Milan, we really managed to have like quite massive construction works. Also, you see here the green wall at Giambellino. It's a bus deposit in the southern part of Milan. A really, really nice green wall, really well monitored also, on really being also the an example for further implementation in Milan. And we have here on the left, on the right side, I'm sorry, a picture from the Clever parcours. So again, here in Hamburg, the idea to connect different quite small interventions into a corridor. You will see that tomorrow, those of you who will be part of the site visit. I think these are 3 aspects that will stay.
Yeah, thank you. And staying is a perfect transition to the next question. I think here and there we heard business models, we heard sort of maintenance, we heard like sort of what will happen in the long run. And one of the big requirements of the project was to think about upscaling. And you might wonder what upscaling is. And I think most projects had to sort of also decide for themselves, what do we mean by that? What does that mean in the city context? It's really about sort of taking the examples, the implementation implementations and seeing whether they make sense elsewhere, adapted or done in the same way, or also in terms of plans, in terms of technical solutions. So very different ways of understanding how we can take these nature-based solutions and make sure that they are sort of multiplied in whatever format. Axel, how did you go about upscaling in proGIreg, which is really quite an ask, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and then maybe I'm not going to answer it like you thought about the question. First, I also want to mention our so-called, we call them follower cities, but they actually also implemented, so there was replication also in the project. We have a green corridor and green schoolyard, which is on its way in Piraeus, one of our followers, and Cascais, for example, is implementing already before the project urban gardening and social housing areas, and now integrating it into a green corridor concept as well. So we have it in the follower cities. Upscaling, but if you would like to talk to me about upscaling, it's not, I think, saying, okay, we planted 100 trees in the project, now let's plant 1,000. Or we had this square meters of green roofs, now we will double it every year, or whatever. This also happens. The Orti Generali, they will have additional surfaces because the demand is so high, etc. But what we upscaling also relates to upscaling the community and using the community that has been created and the new processes of working together in our frontrunner cities and in our living labs for going for new projects and for having created trust and experience in how to communicate with each other, having created an opening of the city administrations for not letting people participate, but really be able to hear what people want and be supportive in their projects. So this is what is going to, it's going rather to be the community and the project it does together, which upscales than saying doubling the surface or whatever. So for example, in Turin, it developed parallel with proGIreg. There is a urban commons regulation now which says how can citizens approach the city if they want to take care of an urban common. And the other way around, also the city can say, we have an urban common here that we will do nothing with it, but if citizens want to do something here, there is a process for launching a call on this. So it's rather a practice of doing things that will be upscaling, and that is upscaling also in the cooperation between cities for new fundings like Interreg, etc., from innovation funding to usual practice funding in the EU, than just saying more square meters, more trees, more whatever.
Yeah, I think that the quality of how things are done, the processes, is pretty important throughout all the 4 projects indeed. Gonzalo, we see a couple of maps here. Tell us a bit more about how you went about this big ask, upscaling nature-based solutions.
Yeah, I would like to bring this proposal of the healthy corridor that we made firstly to our front runners, and then when the follower cities started to work on this process. It was really interesting to see how the cities took this concept and of course our methodology and explore critically what could be how to improve this process. And this is very interesting to see how the follower cities were very important to make a critique, bringing also their own expertise on this. So they had this role of observing what was happening in the front runners, supporting them during all the process with, of course, their knowledge, and then developing the same concept in their with their communities. We work mainly with social housing neighborhoods, so it was also important to see how the same concept could be developed in different contexts. And it's not here, but we have been also developing this concept with other cities that are asking us, that were motivated by this idea of the healthy corridor, and they are asking us to bring this to some situations in South America or in Middle East or even in Asia. And we are developing, for instance, workshops of 3-4 days where we test the possibility of this healthy corridor. So this is becoming interesting for the municipalities or for the academic partners to explore this way of doing, these other ways of doing urban regeneration. And we are using several scenarios, let's say, to explore this concept. Yeah.
Okay, good. Getting hints from Daniela here that we need to hurry up, although I'll add 3 minutes to that according to my watch. So I think we'll manage. Ina, and also briefly the question to you. I mean, you had this huge city network already also that you're working with, and you have a number of scaling approaches.
Yes, actually, we have 5 different ways of scaling, pathways that we used and we developed together with all our network partners. And yeah, you can see that we have this classical scaling up, reaching more people with our activities. We have scaling wide, which means replicate what already works in a new geographic area. We have scaling across, really looking for new domains that can be developed. And we have also the scaling deep to make it better, what our activities, to really reach our target groups. And very important, and maybe this is something what is key in our project, is scaling soft. This means networking, alliance building, advocacy, lobbying, dissemination of the knowledge on edible nature-based solutions. And here again, communities of practice and knowledge are the key that can push these scalings. Yeah, and this is based on all the knowledge that is in our network.
Thank you. Thank you, Ina. We can, by the way, ask all the coordinators plenty of questions later on through, because all of them will be here throughout the day if you want to know more details after the snapshot. Martin.
Yeah, and we just got 3 more minutes here on our screen. I was thinking of chair, if I could turn back time. But okay, so now back to the upscaling experiences. I can really relate to a lot of what was being said here before by Axel, Ina and Gonzalo, because also in our case, a lot of what will be upscaled is not only like technical features, but all the processes really. For example, what I didn't mention is in Clever, our follower cities, we called them fellows, and this had a reason, because they were like not just following us, but they were like giving feedback, and they were like really at the same time when the front runners were testing solutions, building that into their urban NBS plans. And we heard about them yesterday. Philip and Holger were here on stage talking about that. And this, I think, this is also a major upscaling effect, even if it's not like immediately tangible, right? Nevertheless, in order to be a little bit more concrete, I try to list here or to depict 3 examples or 4 examples actually in London. Again, having it said several times, but this format of Community Design Council, the participative co-creative formats that have been tested will definitely be rolled out or be seen as an example for further processes. We have also, and this is quite interesting because we don't hear that so much, we have also a kind of co-monitoring that will probably be upscaled. This is a bat sensor. So this were one of the few actually very technical solutions that we did in Clever, but also this can be upscaled, of course. The green walls in Milan, because they were really successful in implementing them in the example you saw before, so this will go on. And then there's something different I wanted to mention, because might also be an interesting aspect in Hamburg. We also funded a heavy precipitation analysis. This is a hydrological model, and this was. But this is a new way to do it, because there there was a combination of topographical data and hydrological data, giving very, very high resolution and helping us to locate and quantify certain NBS interventions. And 2 of them have already been implemented. And this way of modeling that sounds very technical now, I know, but just so you know that also these things happen in these projects, this will be now rolled out in all of Hamburg. So also another example of rollout or upscaling.
Thank you. And with that, we move from the legacy to the future. Daniela, over to you.
So we looked at what these projects have done throughout these 5 years, 5.5. And I think this is very important to see the legacy, but I think it's also our responsibility to look towards the future and to hear from these 4 project coordinators some questions that could also help other projects and other partners who are passionate about nature-based solutions to go forward with these topics. So I have the first question to you, Axel. What advice would you give to other projects who want to positively roll out these communities for nature-based solutions?
It's difficult to put it all in one. We all mentioned the different advices that we have, the catalogs. Of course, we have a business model catalog which will be published. But what I could provide as a learning from how we worked in the Quad Helix approach with academia, citizens or civil society, businesses and the city, is that also on the local level you need this approach and really be started as an open-ended process to and I heard during these days some people still talking about participation, and that's not the term anymore. And that shouldn't be the term. It's not we as a city, we want something and we would like you to participate in it. I mean, for stormwater management, it's a different thing maybe. We also need infrastructure and we need to make sure that the infrastructures work. But the NBS, which we focused on in our projects, which with a social focus, a community focus, we really need to be able to have an open-ended co-creation process where we and also the scientists who evaluate and assess what is being done are able to listen to the local people. What do you actually want to achieve? What are your needs? And then be able to match this with the appropriate nature-based solutions and to match this also with the methods for evaluating it. And that's also a question to the other projects. Maybe I have the like what I heard in between the lines and when discussing is that this could be working better even than it has been working partly in our projects. You have
so being courageous to face a project, a process that is actually open-ended, that we don't control the results and we give away a little bit of power, and then of course we still have to see where things are going to be steered, and openness to these processes is something important. Yeah, thank you, Axel. I want to ask Martin the same question. Martin, your advice?
Not Ina and Marcelo first. I thought I had a little bit more time to think about it. Very shortly, time is ticking away. So I would start early. I mean, involve the community very early in the process at the very start. So because this is, I mean, I think almost the default mistake that co-creation or participation, as it's still perceived in many cities, but co-creation doesn't at the moment. So just getting people into the process much too late. When actually a lot of things have been decided. And I would say another thing that came to my mind was frame it as a community development process, so not too much looking at, people probably don't care if it's like only NBS or only something else, but frame it as a wider community development process, neighborhood development process, so that people really feel, okay, we can positively influence the future of our whole neighborhood, really, our whole community, whatever we talk about, so, yeah.
Thank you. So I have a different question for Gonçalo. Gonçalo, we have all these sibling projects, so the four of you are an example of it. Can you give us some hints about what are the best ways of sibling projects to exchange amongst each other, and what is the added value of this exchange between projects?
Yeah, I think we have a slide on that, but it's a scheme that shows how we planned since the beginning with, of course, with the Commission, this communication between the projects, but that is not only a communication that happened in several moments, but producing something together. So the Commission challenges to develop what was called the task forces. There are 6 task forces, and they were already active when by the first stage, by the first call of the nature-based solutions, and we came up on that with, for instance, Task Force 2, that produced an interesting handbook on monitoring and evaluation of nature-based solutions that I recommend to you. But for this group, we agreed to launch a new task force that is called Task Force 6 on the co-creation of NBS, and the projects work together to bring what was done during the process. So we meet all these 5 years, and we arrived to the decision of producing 2 products of this working together. One is the handbook that is coordinated by my colleague Isabel Ferreira, she's here also, and many were involved, Isra, Sean, some of you are here, and this will come in the next month. This product is almost ready, and we also developed a toolkit for co-creation that will be in fact presented by Sean and other colleagues in the afternoon, I think in the 3:30 session. So I invite you to see how the projects work together and produce concrete tools coming from the experience that we had in the project. So I think this is very positive. And it was also a way to involve other projects on nature-based solutions, not only the 4 sibling projects, many others that are starting. Some are already even starting but want to be part of this. So we are still open for bringing other projects to these discussions, and we hope that you can also activate with your sibling projects.
Thank you, Gonçalo. I will jump to the last question. This one I will pose to Ina. And Ina, it's a big question. In your view, what still needs to be done in terms of urban regeneration with nature-based solutions?
A lot. Let's say we started recently with this issue. And maybe this is also not true, because nature was always involved in city development, and maybe we lost a bit the nature, and we have to reconnect to the nature, and think also a bit, look to the past, how this was the nature and the city was interlinked, and growth together, actually. And so what we need is really to look a bit back again, and to include this in the urban planning as a must, and not as a nice to have. And do this not only with technical solutions, but with the citizens. Maybe this is an important learning, as this is the most, let's say, sustainable way to do urban regeneration with the people and reconnect the people with nature.
Thank you very much. We have minus 50 seconds. Sorry, the team here. So yeah, we want to thank everybody and of course say that you can know more about the projects visiting their websites, and you can approach the 4 coordinators to ask further questions during the break. Thank you.